In this video, we're going to be taking a look at page 36 in your Go Math book, and I want you to turn there. And we're going to be looking at problems 23 through 30. So these can be a little tricky, but I want to show you how to go about doing these problems. Now, the skill that we're going to be looking at is just writing the sum of numbers as the product of their GCF, or greatest common factor, and another sum. So you should have already watched the 2.1 video, greatest common factor video. This is just to take a look at problems 23 through 30, so make sure that you've already watched the video, and this is the second one of this lesson. Okay, so we need to think about a couple things we need to do. So you see some key terms here: sum, product, and GCF. Those are some key terms we need to think about. So let's look at 56 and 64, and I want you to do this with me in your math journal. So first of all, 56 plus 64, we need to figure out what the sum of those two numbers are. You just simply add them together, and that equals 120. Now, we're not going to do anything with that 120 just yet, but think about, we need to write the sum of the numbers as the product. So sum deals with addition, so we know the sum of 56 and 64. Product is multiplication. GCF, we need to find the GCF of 56 and 64. So what I can do with 56 and 64, I work out the GCF of those two. So we have 1 and 56. We're going to do the bookends here. 2 and 28. 3 does not go into 56. 4 does. So 4 times 14. 5 does not go into 56. 6 does not. 7 does. 7 times 8. So I write 7 on the left-hand side, 8 on the right-hand side. My left-hand side has met up in order with my right-hand side, so I can stop now. Now I can do 64. So I have 164. 1 times 64. Remember, greatest common factor. These are all the numbers that go into these numbers evenly. Or even think about multiplication problems that equal that number. 2 times 32. 3 does not work. 4 does work. 4 times 16. 5 does not go into 64. 6 does not. 7 does not. 8 does. Okay, 8 times 8. So whenever you have a double fact like that, you know you're finished. Greatest common factor here is 8. So GCF is 8. Now I'm going to erase this so I have some room. So I know my sum is 120. My GCF is 8. Of 56 and 64. Now what I need to do is write out the sum of numbers as the product of their GCF and another sum. So first of all, we're going to set up a multiplication problem. 8, GCF is 8. Remember, product of the GCF. So 8 times, and then what you can do is you can look at 56 and 64 and put these in parentheses. 8 times what gives you 56? 8 times 7. So we're going to write 7 there in my parentheses. We're going to add this to 8 times whatever number equals 64. 8. So we have 8 times 7 plus 8. That is going to equal 8. Once again, product of their GCF can equal 8 times, and we're not even going to do the 8 times 7 or anything like that, or 8 times 8, or the 8 plus 7. We're just going to add those two together. It's 15. Okay, so we can work this out. 8 times 15 gives me 120. The sum of numbers as their product, the GCF, so that's 120. That works. 8 times 7 plus 8. 7 plus 8 is 15. Then I multiply 8 times 15 is 120. So you can see, you can even check your answer, but this is your answer for 23. Now, let's do 24 together. Once again, 48 and 14, the first thing we need to do is find the sum of these two numbers. So 48 plus 14, you can see that's going to equal 62. So we know that. Now we got to find the GCF of 48 and 14. I'm not going to go through it all, but the GCF of 48 and 14 is 2. Now we have the sum is 62, GCF is 2. Now, what we need to do, we're going to multiply 2 times, we're going to look at the first add-in, 48. So we got to think about what times 48, what times 2 gives us 48, and that's 24. We're going to add that to whatever 2 times number equals 14, and that's 7. And that's going to equal, we know that equals 62. 24 plus 7 is 31 times 2 is 62. Why does it have to equal 62? Because it has to be the sum of numbers as the product of their GCF. The product of the GCF is 2. When you multiply those two numbers, that will give us 62. And then over here, it's going to equal 2 times, think about what times 2 gives you 62, and that's 31. So you can see the answer for 24 is right here. 2 times 24 plus 7 equals 2 times 31. Let's do 25 together. So we have 30 and 54. 30 plus 54 gives us 88. Greatest common factor of 30 and 54 is 6. So GCF is 6. Now what we need to figure out, we know we're gonna multiply by 6 now. Okay, 6 times, and we're going to put parentheses. And for the first one, we look at that 30. We got to think about 6 times what gives us 30, and that's 5. And then we're going to add that to the second add-in within our parentheses. 6 times what number gives us 54, and that's 9. So that's one part of my equation. 6 times 5 plus 9, that will give us 88. Okay. I'm sorry, 84. Put 88 there. Should be 84. Now, what we need to do is have that equal to 6 times a certain number is going to give us 84, and 6 times 14. An easy way to figure that out is you can just take 84, divide that by 6, and that gives you 14 there. Okay, so 6 times 14 gives me 84. Whenever we're doing this, order of operations, 5 plus 9 is 14. I have my 6 there. 6 times 14 equals 84 as well. Okay, let's do another one together. Do one more together. Let's look at number 26. 24 plus 40, that's going to give me 64. So that's the sum. Greatest common factor. I'm not going to write all this out for sake of time. Greatest common factor of 24 and 40 is 8. That's the number we're going to multiply. Now, setting up our writing the sum of numbers as the product of their GCF and another sum, we have 8 first of all. We're going to multiply that 8 by what number gives us 24? 8 times 3 gives us 24. Then we're going to add that to the number we multiply 8 by to get the 40, which is 5. How do I know I'm correct? 3 plus 5 gives me 8. 8 times 8 is 64, which is the sum. Now we need to look at the right-hand side of our equation. Simply, 8 times what number gives us 64? 8 times 8. So we can see how 8 times 3 plus 5 equals 8 times 8, and that is the sum of the numbers as the product of their GCF and also another sum. Now what I want you to do is number 27 all by yourself, and when you're finished, you can see the answer. So I want you to work on that now. Okay, now we have the answer. 11, where am I getting 11 from? That's the GCF of 55 and 66. Multiplied, I added 5 and 6 together. Where am I getting my 5? Because 11 times 5 is 55. Where am I getting my 6? 11 times 6 is 66. Where am I getting my 11 and 11? Because I know that the sum, one thing I did not say, the sum is 121, so 11 times 11 is 121. Now what I want you to do is number 29 all by yourself, and you can work on that now. So now you can see the answer for this. 5 times 8 plus 5 equals 5 times 13. Where am I getting my 5 from that I'm multiplying? 5 is the GCF of 40 and 25. Where am I getting my 8 from? 5 times 8 is 40. Where am I getting my 5 from within my parentheses? 5 times 5 is 25. And then I also know that 5 times 8 plus 5 is 65. And also 5 times 13 is 65 as well. So this concludes the video on writing the sum of numbers as the product of their GCF and another sum. This can be a little tricky of a concept, but it is important to follow these simple steps that I showed you in the video. If you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.